If you're wondering who this is actually Robin from Batman. You know, Batman's sidekick or his partner. I know what you're thinking. This doesn't look like Robin. That's because it's actually Robin when he was Nightwing. And I know what you're thinking. This doesn't look like Nightwing. Well, that's because he's been samurized. And I know what you're thinking. This doesn't look like Mr. X. Well, in honor of our samurai people, I'm trying to grow a ponytail. As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we're giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey, thanks for tuning in, people. My name is Mr. X, and today we're looking at another piece from XM Studios' DC Samurai line. That's right, as I said, this is Dick Grayson, or Nightwing. We're going to talk all about this. This is a 1/4 scale statue made by XM Studios, part of their Samurai line. And if you're curious what this is, go ahead and check out this video right here that talks a little bit about the origins. But kind of a quick 20-second snapshot is XM Studios wanted to do something a little bit different instead of putting out yet another Batman or another Nightwing or another Joker statue, so they decided to samuraize all the characters. Now, I believe right now the line has 9 or 10 pieces out. It's like 3 more that we're waiting on pre-order right now, and then some more in the works. I'm almost all in on this line. I bought every single one except Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, because I can't find Poison Ivy at a decent price, and Harley Quinn I just didn't care for. I did see her in person. But Nightwing is here, and he might arguably be one of the best in the collection. Not just because he looks badass, but tons of awesome display options, and the paint and sculpt are just out of this world, as it seems like it always is with these samurai pieces. Most recently, actually a few weeks ago I think, I got in this Joker piece right here, which also blew my expectations. Blew away, not blew my expectations. I know there's a joke there, I just can't think of what it is. Alright, so let's talk about Nightwing for a little bit. Nightwing has a few different origin stories. Now keep in mind this is a samurai's Nightwing, which really doesn't have an origin story, but the traditional Nightwing was Dick Grayson. So he was Batman's sidekick as Robin, and then eventually he went out on his own for various reasons. As I said, there's a few different storylines. In one of the storylines, Batman actually fired him because Dick Grayson was not committed enough to the cause of Batman. So eventually, he went off on his own as Nightwing, and kind of a funny thing, the name Nightwing was actually stolen from Superman. In one version, Superman actually said it was a hero on Krypton. In another version, with Brainiac and Kandor, where Superman was shrunk way down, that's actually the name Superman used. So that's where he got the name Nightwing. It's kind of a combination, in my opinion, between Robin and Batman. He's not a superhero at all, because he doesn't even have the superpower that Batman or Mr. X have. He's not rich. But he's a skilled martial artist, he has an incredible willpower, he's acrobatic, he's strong, and he's a genius. Most people don't know that about Dick Grayson, but he's considered one of the smartest characters in the DC universe. He went out on his own, doing a few different things. He actually turned evil for a little bit as well, fighting some of the traditional Batman villains like Deathstroke, and then also creating some of his own enemies. So what XM Studios did with this concept is they took kind of the second version of Nightwing, where he has some of the blue on the costume, and they samurized it. And some of the stuff we're going to talk about in design in a minute, you'll see there's a number of different display options. And as with most samurai pieces, some of them are a little more traditional and some of them are more advanced. But starting at the bottom with the concept of this piece, just like a few of the others, he is on a statue. And it is a traditional Japanese statue. And I'm not sure who this statue is, but it reminds me a little bit of like an Orochi Joker or an oversized Joker minion or something of that nature. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, or if it's me just seeing things. And there is broken buildings all around him. This very, very much reminds me of the Batgirl statue, which I'm actually setting him right next to her. So there's these broken pillars and buildings, and the statue itself really isn't broken, but it's old and cracked. He is on top of it in a fighting stance. And I really like this. He's ready to fight. He's ready to go to town. Most of the line is like this or in a museum pose. And as you move up, like I said, they stuck with a lot of the classic colors, but they put their own twist on it. They have armor all over him, which I think makes him look even more badass. A few things like the pants and the mask we'll get up to have some of that traditional Japanese heritage when you think of a samurai. He has tons of different weapons. Now, a lot of these are display options that you can switch out, but from billy clubs to daggers to a quiver full of arrows. And the armor plating just continues all over his body. In this particular portrait, I actually have him with a samurai mask on. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I love all the display options. I'll show those to you in a minute. While I think it's copied a little bit off of the previous ones they've done, they weren't incredibly creative to come up with something new. I still like it a lot, as long as a lot of the future heroes don't have this same exact thing. So I think the concept's a 4 out of 5. Really impressed. And I think design Ties a lot into the concept with all those display options. But before we look at those, let's look at the unboxing and assembly. One very large box, which was kind of surprising how big and heavy it was, but it had a simple art box as the XM Studios usually do, with your classic straps and white foam. So the first layer had everything wrapped in wax paper and plastic. You can see kind of a lot of the accessories right here. And some of the things that were included that are almost always included. First is this small kind of a COA plaque that says limited edition, as well as an art print of the pose of the statue, and then some directions on where everything goes and how to access some other online stuff. The second layer had the base, the body, and a few other pieces also wrapped up, you can see right here. So fairly easy assembly despite all the parts, and all those parts are because of all the display options. So let's cover those. Here is what I call the most traditional portrait with the mask, and this is probably my favorite mask. Almost has a little bit of a dog aspect to it, but it's pretty cool. We'll look at it closer in Paint and Sculpt. And then you have what I call a regular Nightwing portrait. So this looks like the Nightwing I know, kind of an armored eye mask. And then what I call kind of the advanced one, this is just like the Catwoman head. Catwoman has a portrait like this. It almost looks like a visor covering down. And I wasn't a fan of Catwoman's, but I really like this one, and I did not expect that. On his right arm, you have 3 different options. Option number 1 is holding a billy club. Pretty cool. Option number 2 is him making a gang sign. I actually put this one back in the box. Option number 3 is holding a bow. Now his left arm, you have 3 options as well. Option number 1 is him reaching back into his quiver to grab some arrows. Obviously this option right here, you can only use if he's holding the bow, or it only makes sense if he's holding the bow. Option number 2 is holding a billy club. And the third option is holding a dagger. Now with this dagger right here, these are also on his side. You saw me stick those on. They went on via magnet. You can actually remove them. They do leave kind of an eyesore with the magnet right there, but if you didn't want them, you can remove them. Now with all that, you actually have different options for his back, which obviously what you want to display on his back probably depends on what you're doing with his arms. But let's look at those. First, you can do the quiver with the arrows. And as you saw during the assembly, those arrows are all separate pieces, which I like. Or you can have his billy clubs on the back. Now, I wouldn't display these if you had the billy clubs in his hands, but you certainly could do that. These actually went back in the box for me. Or they have a small key piece you can put in here if you don't want to display anything on the back. This also went back in the box for me. So in summary, here are just some of the display options. And you can mix and match, but first we have him kind of with the bow and the quiver. Then here are the billy clubs. And then lastly, the dagger with the billy clubs on the back and the gang sign. Now the community is divided about display options. Me, that feels like too many display options. However, I don't mind a lot of display options when there's ones I clearly like and ones I clearly don't. I like all of them, so it creates an even bigger problem because I don't want to put them away. I want to switch them out often, kind of like I did with the Joker statue. But there's some of these, like I remember the Samurai Bane that I have, I only like it displayed one way. So it's both a pro and a con that there's so many cool ways to display this. But everything fit perfectly. Let's get the dimensions on him. The widest point of the base is probably about 15.5 inches, give or take. The deepest point is a little less than 13, and the tallest point, his ponytail, is right under 23.5. The arrows, depending on how you lay them in there, may go up to 24 inches or so. I do plan to put him in my new display upstairs. Like I said, he's going in some built-in shelving next to Batgirl. If you want to see what that looks like, check out the Extreme Channel Instagram, Facebook page, and TikTok. So design, honestly, I don't see anything I would change. I don't see anything that can be improved upon. I have to give it a 5 out of 5 on the design. I really, really like it. I really, really like the paint and sculpt as well. As usual, XM Studios knocked it out of the park. So let's take a look at that. So let's start off by looking at some of these accessories. But even his bow right here, I like how there's a mix of almost future tech in this and kind of some traditional stuff. This is real string, which even Mrs. X was surprised when we pulled it out of the box. And we'll look at all the portraits on the end, but his base, like I said, very reminiscent of the Batgirl one. She has some pillars like this that are broken. I love the coloring they used on this. It looks like real wood, and then you have some of that intricate display, those designs and symbols. But even like the way the grain runs in the wood and how broke up it is. But then look at these large pillars here. So they have this outside red wooding with this faded color on them. And then look at the inside where it's broken off. This looks phenomenal. It looks real. Really impressed not only with the paint, but the sculpt of this, how it's broken down below. There is a little bit of dirt on the bottom and some concrete as well. Now, I don't have my statues displayed where you can see the back of them, but it's still pretty neat on how much detail goes into that you never see. So this giant statue down here we're talking about looks great. I like how cracked it is. I like the different colors they used. You almost wonder if he broke in and destroyed a clan somewhere. That's almost the feeling that I get. So the base is fantastic. Now what's great is it's kind of these monotone colors despite the shading. So then when you move up, you really see that color pop on Nightwing. I love the color they used. I love the shiny, I don't want to say it's a teal blue, but this off blue right here. So we talked about he's all armored up. I love that. You have kind of that dot design in between the metal pieces here with the gold trim on the outside. And you'll see that throughout on his belt. He has little pouches, just like you traditionally expect from Batman and Robin and Nightwing. And then his pants, kind of this baggier pants, which gives you more of that traditional feeling. And the different colors of blue they used on that. You see the folds and the seams, and then this texturized pattern on it. Looks really nice. Now, none of these daggers are metal or real metal, but they did a great job with the paint, making them appear to be really real metal. I don't mind if you have resin or polystone and you can make it appear to be that way, but even the detail like on the handle here looks great. So just really impressed. So much going on here, but it's not overpowering either. I think the amount of gold on here is more than I expect. And if you look at it in detail, it almost seems like it's too much, but the statue as a whole, especially with the neutral colors the base offers, kind of balance that out. And his armor, his shoulder pads here, the little spikes, I like that. And same with his gauntlets here. Very Batman-ish. The billy clubs are very large. Again, not real metal, but they did a great job painting them. Even the tiny blue highlight here really ties into the costume. And then it almost looks like he has some extra padding on here, which you would expect, some type of, not body armor necessarily, but almost like a Daredevil type aspect. Then you can see almost the reminiscence of a hood. Now the Robin coming out does have a hooded portrait, and that was actually my favorite, so that's probably how I'll display him. But I think it would have been cool if that was some type of option. And then let's take a look. These straps and then the metal armor on the back, the layering of it. So much detail, and the paint is incredibly clean. Really impressed with the factory paint on this. Even the arrows look real, and like I said, I like how you can individually insert them. And here's the metal quiver back here. So much cool stuff going on. So let's look at the portraits. First, his hair. He's got these blue highlights in it, kind of running towards the back. And you almost look at this and you wonder, man, did they do too much blue? I don't think they did. Under these bright lights, it really makes it pop a little more. But I think where it's going to be displayed, you won't be that overpowering. His hair tie in the back. Now, almost all the ponytails are the same, which we'll look at with all the portraits. But let's look at this dog-type mask. This is what really caught my eye when they initially released this. I was sure 100% this would be the portrait I display. And I think it's my favorite, but it's a pretty close race. The detail, the mix between like some of the traditional Japanese aspect and a futuristic high-tech armored aspect to, you know, hey, this is kind of a dog-like creature. So my least favorite is definitely the visor. Almost like a motorcycle helmet. And here you actually see a little bit of his lips there, very serious. I think the skin tone's done well. It's really, you don't see much skin in him at all. A lot of the same comments about the hair. I think it's sculpted the exact same. You only see the ponytail on this. They could have done without the ponytail, I think, on this. Just had it all tucked in. But I like how you have the shiny black and then kind of a neutral gold. If anyone knows what that symbol, that Japanese character is, let me know what it means. And then the last portrait is, like I said, kind of the traditional one. He still has a ponytail. I would have liked this without the ponytail as well. At least one option without the ponytail, but the traditional Nightwing mask, but a little bit more samurai-ized, a little bit more armored. And then the golden eyes look fantastic. Really glad they went with his eyes on that, which is an interesting point. You don't see his eyes anywhere on any of the portraits. So kind of different. He has a little bit of a Superman spit curl coming out of the front. Same comments on his hair. And again, I think it's the exact same sculpt. They should have switched that up. But overall, amazing piece. All right, starting with the sculpt, I think it's phenomenal. I love the body armor. I love the portraits. I love the base. I think the sculpt's a 5 out of 5 on this. Pretty easy. They seem to continually knock these out. The detail is just impeccable. And the same thing can be said about the paint. I love the colors on this. Not only the execution of the paint, like we talked about how clean it is, but the art direction on it as well. Also gets a 5 out of 5 for me on the paint. All right, let's talk about value on this piece. So they made 600 of these, 599 of these. Now, with that being said, the original retail price was right at 1,300 Singapore dollars. 1,300 Singapore dollars is about 76 cents on the dollar for US dollars. So essentially subtract 24% from that. Plus, they're shipped overseas. Now, DC is licensed in the United States, so you can get this from a lot of US distributors. I get a ton of my XM Studio stuff from Anton Wu on Facebook. I have for 4 or 5 years. Honestly, I've probably given him 40 grand over the year because his service is impeccable. He's one of the many sellers I highly recommend. So realistically, you're about $1,200 all in for a 1/4 scale piece. That's a lot of money. Now, the problem with the Samurai line, some of these are available for retail 2 years later. Some of them go up in value 50 to 300%, and you don't know which one this is going to be. Honestly, I think it's one of the best of the line so far. So I think right now I have to give the value a 3 out of 5 because it's probably still available at retail, but I could definitely see this one being one of the ones that goes up, like the original Bat Samurai or the Shogun or the Poison Ivy. Plus, Nightwing's just a really cool character. However, the X factor on this statue, is this a 5 out of 5 statue? And that's not a cumulative score. That's just looking at this and saying, is it a badass piece? Does it catch your eye? It really does. I think I like this better than Batman. I think I like it better than Batgirl and some of the villains I have. I don't know if I like it better than Joker or the Shogun horse. After I get in Penguin and Robin this year, I'll do a countdown of what I like from least to best. But I definitely think this has the X factor. I think it's a 5 out of 5 statue because Nightwing's such a cool character. I think what they did with him is fantastic. Really impressed. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Let me know where this ranks for you guys in the scheme of the Samurai series. Throw that in the comments below. That'll help enter you into the drawing. Also, punch that picture of me if you want to see the upcoming pieces. We drop content almost every other day here. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.